It all begins in the 12th century, the moment a young man named Ash is dragged to his execution, shackled. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, Ash had a great modern life and a great job. Ash is a consultant in a hypermarket. One day, with his girlfriend Linda, he goes to the mountains, renting an abandoned archaeologist's cabin, where Ash finds an ancient book of the dead ex mortis. The manuscript, covered in human skin and written in blood, was not meant for the world of the living, so when Ash opened it, something dark appeared in the woods, taking Linda and coming back for Ash. The entity penetrated the guy's arm, and to stop the decomposition, Ash grabbed a chainsaw. That didn't stop the evil. Gaining strength, it came back and opened a vortex that began to suck in everything in its path, including Ash himself. Ash lands in a wasteland, and the ironclad horsemen immediately gather around him and are ordered to capture the Wanderer. The lad tries to explain himself to Lord Arthur, but the latter looks apprehensively at the stranger and beckons the old sage to him. The old man suggests that this is the same man from the prophecy who was supposed to fall from the sky and save everyone from horror and death, but Arthur refuses to believe the legend. He suspects that it is actually Henry's spy and gives orders to throw the lad into the pit. While Ash tries to fend off the guards, the wise man retrieves the chainsaw he forgot, and so the lad is led away shackled. As the procession enters the town, the villagers shout insulting curses after the prisoners and praise Lord Arthur. Sheila, one of the local maidens, runs up to my lord's horse and asks about her brother, to which Arthur confesses that the lad has fallen in battle. The locals grow more aggressive, and now they are not only shouting after him, but also spreading their arms. Sheila joins the others and swoops in on Ash, promising to avenge his brother. The prisoners are lined up next to a pit located in the center of town. Without further ado, Arthur orders the pit to be opened, and one of the vassals is immediately thrown down. Only seconds pass before a scarlet fountain rises into the sky. Another prisoner tries to escape, but Arthur immediately fires an arrow from his crossbow, stopping the fugitive. Ash is brought next to the pit. Sheila, continuing to accuse the stranger, throws a stone, denying him any chance for clemency. Ash finds himself at the bottom of the well, and a dead man with shrouded eyes emerges from the water. The guy manages to fight off the zombies, so Arthur orders the destruction of both so that no one can get out. A wise man comes to Ash's aid. The old man drops the Wanderer a chainsaw, which he manages to grab with his severed hand. Ash manages to defeat the dead man, but another one appears out of nowhere, and the shields with spikes are getting closer. The guy clings to the chain and climbs up, saving his legs at the last second. Once on the surface, Ash lets Henry and his knights go. Arthur does not like his impertinence, but Ash has his gun, which saves his life. The onlookers gather around to scrutinize the unfamiliar object. After all, by this point, only swords and spears exist in their world, and the lad proudly raises the gun above his head. Speaking to the crowd, Ash sees a dead man emerge from the pit, and pulling the trigger, the guy demonstrates the power of the firearm. The zombie is sent back. Around the guest, beauties gather with fruit, meat, and wine. Sheila also sits at Ash's feet. She apologizes for her attacks, but the guy blows her off, recalling the stone that was thrown. An old man comes to Ash's chambers and says he must find a book that will help him return home. At the same moment, a dead witch appears in the room, screaming that they will never give the stranger the Book of the Dead. The witch makes a commotion in the room, scattering the guards one by one, and Ash resorts to the help of the shotgun again. When he finally manages to get rid of the old woman, the old man asks him to go in search of the book now, because if it falls into the hands of zombies, all of humanity will be consumed by evil. The blacksmith creates an iron prosthesis for the boy to replace his severed arm. Sheila also sews him a cloak, but the offended guest calls it a horse blanket. Offended, Sheila slaps the brute and runs away, but Ash catches up with the girl and asks her to sweeten his life by kissing her. Arthur and the old sage lead Ash to the edge of the cemetery, where the Book of the Dead awaits him. The wise man tells the foreigner the words he must say when he finds the manuscript and asks him not to mix them up. The traveler finds himself in a misty forest. Suddenly, Ash sees something terrible rushing at him, and he tries his best to escape, but after hitting a branch, the traveler falls into the swamp and has to keep running on foot. Ash takes refuge in the old mill, but the entity breaks down the door, much to the dismay of the Wanderer, but at some point the knocking stops. The stranger builds a fire in the fireplace, and suddenly he sees his reflection in a large mirror. The boy breaks the mirror, and from the dozens of fallen shards his miniature copies emerge into the room. Armed with pitchforks, they attack the giant, frightening him again. Ash tries to fight back, getting rid of one of the little doppelgangers, but the midgets are good and they make the giant faint. When Ash wakes up, he is tied to the floor. The midgets make him open his mouth and one of his attackers dives in. Finally untangling the ropes, Ash tries his best to kick the tiny copy out of him, but even the steep boiling water doesn't help. In addition, an eye appears on the guy's shoulder, followed by a head, a torso, and finally a separate Big Ash. The double finally separates from Ash and appears to be his bad half. The guy immediately eliminates the copy and takes it back to the mill to cut it up into pieces and bury it deep in the ground. Moving on, Ash finds an altar, but it turns up 3 identical books at once. Unsure which one to choose, the boy opens the first one he sees and is drawn into the vortex that ends up inside. The traveler manages to get out, but his face looks like it's been sucked into a giant vacuum cleaner. Ash has to shake his head several times to remedy the situation. The second book also turns out to be a trap. It swoops down on the guy like a vicious dog and only an iron prosthetic saves him. Finally, Ash finds the right copy, but now he can't remember the words to spell. The hero calls the spell at random and makes things worse. Dead men start appearing from under the ground, and even in the city everything goes upside down. Bony arms pin Ash to the ground, but he manages to escape and make it to his horse. As the lad rushes for the city walls, his doppelganger emerges from the pit to exact his revenge. The townspeople rejoice at the hero, hoping that he will save them from the zombies, but he wants to return home as soon as possible, and after giving the book to the old man, the boy demands that he be teleported away. Upon learning that the traveler's words are wrong, the wise man grieves him. Not only can he not return, he has also condemned mankind to destruction. Arthur tells the lad that they will send him home, but the townspeople's deaths will remain on his conscience. Sheila also reminds the boy of their dreams, which now will not come true because everyone will die. The demons don't keep him waiting. A terrifying entity immediately swoops into town and takes Sheila away. Grabbing his sword, Ash tries to save her, but not in time. Meanwhile, at the cemetery, Ash double gathers an army of the dead to retrieve the book. When Sheila is brought to him, the monster kisses her with the same words Ash said to the girl the other day. Intelligence reports to Arthur that an army of the dead is approaching the castle. Panic begins to break out among the knights, but Ash gives everyone confidence that they can win, and to do so they must make peace and unite with Henry. The knights support the man from the future, and the city prepares to meet its enemies. An army of the dead is just getting ready to attack, led by Ash's double and Sheila, who has also become one of the zombies. But the townspeople are not lost. Ash orders them to bring his fallen car, in the trunk of which turns out to be a lot of useful stuff. At night, the guy works with the sage to prepare gunpowder and weapons, and during the day, he teaches the knights martial arts. There are more dead men, but Ash wants to go home so badly that he decides to go up against the zombies. He hands out commands to the knights, and having raised the bridge, the town prepares for battle. The Lord of the Dead orders the army to storm the castle, and as soon as they are very close, flaming arrows fly at them from the walls. Catapults with gunpowder also destroy most of the raiders, but victory is still a long way off. The skeletons manage to breach the gates and penetrate the city, and Arthur thinks that now all they can do is pray. But Ash unleashes his ultimate weapon. He rides out in an upgraded car, destroying the dead men. The girl reveals her true face to him and, armed with a spear, tries to destroy her friend. He manages to fight back, but the townspeople are defeated and the skeletons are about to get their hands on the book. Henry and his men come to the aid of Arthur's army, and while the armies fight, Ash climbs the tower to protect the book from his double. The lad single-handedly tackles a crowd of dead men and throws Sheila off the wall, who is trying to stop him. But now the hardest battle awaits him, a battle with himself to save the book and return home. No matter what Ash does, the doppelganger picks up his knuckles each time and comes back with renewed vigor. Eventually he manages to push Ash off the wall, and as he falls, the guy sees that the fuse is about to set the gunpowder bag on fire. After luring the zombie lord to him, Ash knocks the book out of his hand and launches the skeleton along with the bag, thus solving 2 problems at once. The remaining dead men escape, and the townspeople celebrate their victory. Sheila is left lying on the ground, and when it is over, the girl returns to her normal state and throws herself on her mate's neck. Suddenly, Arthur's and Henry's armies rise up against each other again, but Ash manages to reconcile them and peace reigns in the city. The elder brews a potion and tells Ash the spell he must repeat in order to return to his world. Before he does, the boy goes for a walk with Sheila to say goodbye and kiss her one last time. The whole story Ash tells the next day to his colleague, who doesn't really believe in the zombie tale or that an ordinary consultant could become a king. But the story impresses a long-legged, beautiful customer, and she flirts with the hero. Suddenly it gets dark in the hypermarket, and one of the dead girls that Ash accidentally led into his world appears, having once again made a mistake with a spell. Already knowing what to do, the boy grabs a gun from the window and strips the witch, becoming king in his world and conquering his new girlfriend.